Picture yourself on Christmas Eve morning, 6:30, the streets still dark, your breath turning to fog as you rush down the cobblestone street in your coat and scarf. And there it was, the queue outside the Metzgerei. 30 people deep, all waiting for one thing, the goose they had ordered weeks ago. This was not just any morning. This was Heiligabend in 1970s Germany. The one day of the year when the whole country did the same things at the same time. When shops shut at midday and would not open again until the 27th. When last-minute panic mixed with centuries of tradition. And when every family in Germany went through exactly the same ritual. If you lived through it, you know this was not shopping. This was survival, and somehow it was magic. The queue started early. By 7 o'clock, the butcher's window was steaming up from the inside. Rows of plucked geese hung from hooks, some massive, some smaller. Every single one already ordered. You had ordered yours back in November. You put your name down, paid a deposit, because if you did not, you would be eating Würstchen like everyone else. Or worse, nothing at all. The Metzger knew everyone by name. Frau Müller, Herr Schmidt, the Weber family. He would greet each customer, disappear into the back, and return carrying your bird wrapped in brown paper, heavy as a toddler, freezing cold. Zorro! People stood stamping their feet, rubbing their hands together, breath coming out in clouds. Nobody complained about the wait. This was Heiligabend. This was tradition, and besides, where else were you going to go? Inside, sawdust covered the floor, the smell of fresh meat mixed with coal smoke from the shop stove, the butcher in his white apron, blood-stained but cheerful. This was his busiest day of the year. He had been up since 4 o'clock preparing orders, checking weights, making sure everyone got what they had paid for. By 9 o'clock, the last goose was collected. The butcher locked the door and the street fell silent. But the panic wasn't over. Not yet. Because once you had your goose, you needed everything else. Brötchen, milk, extra butter, those last bits you'd forgotten, and the shops were closing at noon. Kaufhof was the last stop. By 10 o'clock, it was packed. Families fighting for the last box of Christbaumkugeln. Children tugging at their parents, begging for one more chocolate Nicholas. The confectionery counter was mobbed. Everyone grabbing handfuls of marzipan Kartoffeln, Dominosteine, and Lebkuchen, filling those paper bags until they split. Last-minute gifts. A pair of slippers for Opa. Eau de Cologne for Oma. A box of Sprengel chocolates to take to your Tante on the first Christmas day. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just enough to say you'd remembered. The tills rang constantly. Deutsche Mark notes were counted. Pfennige clinked. And by midday, the shops shut their doors, the lights went off, the streets emptied, and Christmas had officially begun. The fear was real. Alles ist zu. Those 3 words haunted every household on Heiligabend. Because once the shops closed, they stayed closed. Christmas Day, the 26th, sometimes even the 27th if you were unlucky. People bought Brötchen like they were preparing for a siege, 20 or 30 rolls stored in the bread box even though they would be stale by the second Christmas Day. Extra bottles of milk, tins of everything, Erbsen, Bohnen, Rotkohl, just in case. Running out wasn't an option. There was nowhere to go. No corner shop staying open. No tankstelle selling milk at midnight. If you forgot something, you did without. Or you knocked on a neighbor's door and hoped they had a spare jar of mayonnaise for the Kartoffelsalat. Back home, the real work started. The goose was enormous and needed hours of preparation. Your mother rubbed it with salt, stuffed it with apples, onions, and bafus, and tied it with string. Into the oven it went, fat slowly dripping into the pan below, that precious Gänseschmalz that would be spread on bread for weeks to come. Meanwhile, the Kartoffelsalat began. Mountains of potatoes boiled until soft, peeled, while still hot, burning your fingers because that was how it had to be done. Chopped onions, pickles, and broth were stirred in while everything was still warm. Your mother's recipe, handed down from her mother, was made exactly the same way every single year. Some families used mayonnaise, some used bruahe. Wars had been fought over less. The Würstchen waited in their jar, Frankfurter or Wiener depending on where you lived, because not everyone had goose. Many families, most families, sat down to Kartoffelsalat mit Würstchen on Heiligabend. Simple, traditional, and somehow perfect. The stollen came out of the tin where it had been aging for weeks, wrapped in foil, heavy with marzipan and dried fruit, dusted with powdered sugar that got everywhere. The Plätzchen, including Vanillekipferl, Zimtsterne, and Spritzgebäck, were arranged on plates, half of them already eaten by children who could not wait. And then the tree. In many homes, the Weihnachtsbaum was kept in a locked room all day. The children were not allowed to see it. That was the rule. While they played or visited grandparents, the parents decorated. Glass ornaments passed down through generations, lametta draped strand by strand, and the candles, real candles, clipped to the branches, waiting to be lit. This was the moment. Bescherung. Late afternoon, the light already fading outside, and then the bell rang. A small silver bell rung from behind the closed door. The children's hearts stopped. The door opened slowly, and there it was. The tree, blazing with candlelight, ornaments glittering, the whole room transformed into something magical. In Catholic homes, they said it was the Christkind who had come. In others, the Weihnachtsmann. But every child knew, standing in that doorway, watching the candles flicker, that something sacred had happened in that room while they were gone. The presents waited beneath the tree, wrapped in paper, tied with ribbon. Not piles and piles, just a few carefully chosen gifts. A doll, a wooden train, a book, maybe a new pair of mittens hand-knitted by Oma. You opened them slowly because this was the moment you'd waited for all year. The drinks came out. Eierlikör for the women, thick and sweet, sipped from tiny glasses. Asbach Uralt for the men, or a glass of wine brand. The good bottle, the one kept in the Wohnzimmerschrank for special occasions. For the children, Fastbraus or Kindersekt. Fizzy and sweet, poured into grown-up glasses so you could pretend. The television flickered in the corner. By 6 o'clock, everyone knew what was on. The Die Sendung mit der Maus Christmas Special, or perhaps Drei Haselnüsse für Aschenbrödel, the Czech fairy tale that somehow became as German as Christmas itself. Later, the news, then the Christmas programming, variety shows, concerts, old films. Your father sat in his chair reading the Hörzu, pen in hand, circling tomorrow's programs. The schedule was law. The whole family would watch together because there were only 3 channels, and this was what you did. Evening arrived. The house smelled of goose fat and candle wax, of glühwein warming on the stove, of pine needles and Lebkuchen. The candles on the tree were lit one more time, carefully, always carefully, with a bucket of water nearby because every family knew someone whose tree had caught fire. Then came the singing. Stille Nacht, of course, O Tannenbaum, Ihr Kinderlein kommet. Standing around the tree, voices uncertain but earnest because this was what you did on Heiligabend. Even Opa, who never sang any other day of the year, joined in. Some families went to church, the Kreismet at midnight, or the earlier service at 10. Walking through the cold, snow crunching underfoot if you were lucky, breath visible in the freezing air. The church packed, candles everywhere, the organ playing, voices rising in O du Fröhliche. The pastor kept it short because everyone was tired and wanted to get home. Bedtime came late because on Heiligabend the rules were different. The tree lights were turned off, the candles extinguished one by one. You climbed the stairs in your new pajamas, slightly too big so they'd last the year, the fabric stiff and smelling of the shop. The bedroom was freezing. Ice formed on the inside of the windows. The Federbett was heavy and cold at first, then slowly warm. You lay there, too excited to sleep, listening to the sounds of the house settling, your parents' voices downstairs, quiet laughter, the clink of glasses being washed. Outside, the street was silent. No cars, no voices, just the orange glow of street lamps and the distant sound of bells. Snow, if you were lucky, covered everything in white, making the world feel new. Heiligabend in the 1970s in Germany was not glamorous. It was cold, exhausting, and stressful, but it was ours, the shared experience that every family in Germany went through together. If you remember that queue at the Metzger, or the smell of goose fat in Tannennadeln, or standing in the doorway watching the candles blaze on the tree, then this was your Heiligabend too. It was not perfect, but we would not change it for anything.